in a society where people just love to hear the sound of their own voice and will argue about every nonsensical thing under the sun. You know those people, you've dealt with those people, and you can't stand those people. So, can we all agree right here and right now that The Dark Knight is one of the best superhero movies ever made and one of the best movies of the 2000s, top to bottom? But there is a scene in the movie that always stands out to me, and it's when Alfred's talking about the methods and the thinking of the Joker terrorizing Gotham City. Some men just want to watch the world burn. And every single time I open up college football Twitter, that's where my brain goes when I hear people say, what has Brian Kelly done to prove he is an elite coach in college football? So the question today is, Brian Kelly overrated? What's going on, SEC Unfiltered? It's Cole Thompson here. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and the ring notification. That way you don't miss a single thing happening on this channel, because we talk SEC sports on the daily. Continue to follow me on social media at Mr. Cole Thompson. Follow my own YouTube channel at Mr. Cole Thompson. Better yet, while you're following me there, make sure that you also follow SEC Unfiltered on all of our social media platforms. TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at SEC Unfiltered. Download the podcast version of the show. And to keep up with everything that we're doing covering college sports in the SEC, make sure that you visit secunfiltered.com. And this episode of SEC Unfiltered would not be possible without our friends over at RHOBACK. Let me tell you about the performance hoodies. They're the best piece of clothing I own. I cannot emphasize how breathable they are, how stretchable they are, how soft they are. It literally feels like you're getting a warm hug every single day. And for me, living in the South, in Texas, Houston of all places, especially during golf season, it's a swamp. I already know that my backswing is terrible on the back nine, and I don't want to be frustrated, covered in sweat. You know when I don't get that? Whenever I wear RHOBACK's premier performance polos. They're comfortable, they're four-way stretch, they're perfect for game days, and they go with every single outfit out there. So do me a favor, go check them out right now by using the promo code SECU on RHOBACK. That's RHOBACK.com for a generous 20% off your first purchase on bottoms, QZs, hoodies, promo codes, everything more. All you gotta do, visit SECU with the promo code at RHOBACK.com. You get 20% off your first purchase. Basically, we're buying one of your gifts for you. So go ahead and join the RHOBACK family today. You want to be just like Jalen Milroe. Visit RHOBACK.com and use the promo code SECU for 20% off your first order. Brian Kelly, overrated. Well, it's an enigma, and it's going to be one of those enigmas that last long after we have departed this earth and the next generation of people are arguing about college football coaches from the 2000s. Brian Kelly will always be that middle ground. Is he great? Is he not great? What stands out about him, and why was he even in the front runner? Like, go back to when LSU hired Brian Kelly. Let's just go back 2 years ago, and the rumors were swirling that Lincoln Riley was going to be the coach. Well, they got to land a big name. They have to land a big name if Lincoln Riley's going to be the guy. So they go get Brian Kelly. So Brian Kelly comes down from an area that he's always been, the Midwest, the Northeast, that kind of vicinity, and then heads down to the SEC. And the first thing that we hear all the time, he can't recruit. He can't recruit. He can't be a part of the culture. He can't establish an identity. He can't be what's needed in the Bayou because he doesn't understand the Bayou. He doesn't understand what Tiger Stadium is like on a Saturday night when Alabama comes marching into town. He doesn't understand the atmosphere in Baton Rouge on game days when it's 5 a.m. and you're watching as people come all across the country to set up tailgates and prepare for 8 hours of spit swapping, nonstop college football conversations leading up into the game. There's a very special place in the SEC, and it's right in the heart of Louisiana in Baton Rouge. Brian Kelly doesn't know what that's like, so he's going to fail immediately. Just like he was supposed to fail at Notre Dame, because wasn't a big enough name, wasn't a prominent enough name to go from Cincinnati to Notre Dame. Not a good enough coach. Definitely had some growing pains. A lot of players left. Well, in an overnight, he was able to reconstruct a roster and get them to 10 wins, bring them to the likes of the SEC championship, and win a bowl game in the process. On top of that, he had a Heisman Trophy caliber quarterback in both years. This past year, they won it. He's now joining Joe Burrow. The offense was still elite by all means. Go ahead and look at the numbers, and they can back it up with Mike Denbrock. And if a defense had a shred of consistency, what are we talking about LSU this year? Because they still went 10-3. Brian Kelly is the second fastest coach in LSU history to get to 20 wins. But imagine if they had a defense with this offense that's averaging over 440 yards per game, averaging over 40 plus points per game, Heisman Trophy caliber quarterback, 2 first-round wide receivers, good run game, solid offensive line. What are we talking about? Probably beating Alabama and Tuscaloosa for a second year. Probably holding their own against Ole Miss and actually getting the upset win. Finding a way to make sure that Missouri doesn't even stand a chance in that game, because that's culture. That's what Brian Kelly, that's what Foghorn Leghorn, the guy that everyone said was never going to be successful, could do. And so now we talk about how he is an overrated head coach. What has he won? What has he won? Well, since 1991, in his 34 years of coaching college football, he's 283 and 103 and 2 if you exclude the vacated wins. He has 18-10 win seasons from 1991 all the way from the FCS level to Central Michigan to Notre Dame to Cincinnati to LSU. He also has been able to produce nonstop first-round talents. He's the 3rd most qualified coach in college football right now with the most first-round picks. He's a 2-time AP Coach of the Year. He's a 3-time Coach of the Year by the Home Depot people. He has the 3rd most postseason appearances if you include the national championship in 2012 among active coaches, tied with the guy who's now out of USC and the guy that many people thought was coming to LSU, Lincoln Riley. And on top of that, he's also got the LSU Tigers with a top 3 recruiting class. Now, make no mistake, the purple and the yellow certainly carry a little bit of weight, and that big blue and yellow SEC logo will determine a lot of players heading in one direction versus the other direction. But you still have to be able to produce the talent. You still have to be able to get the right coaches in the building. You still have to be able to show that your production reaps the benefits of what you're making. Well, 2 10-win seasons, another year where you're going to see more first-round talent go in the NFL draft. The transfer portal gave, and it also took it, but you landed a ton of high-profile players. Top 10 recruiting class now for the 2nd consecutive year. You're going into next year with a top 3 and could end up having the number 1 recruiting class, opposite of, you guessed it, Notre Dame. Oh, and you're able to hold your own against the big boys. You know, the Alabamas of the world, the Georgias of the world. You can definitely put on a show where you know, yes, we will be competitive. Here's the ultimate trap card. People want to talk about national champions. How many active coaches right now in college football have won a national title? I'll save you the trouble. It's 3. One is Mack Brown in 2005. One is Dabo Swinney, who right now is feeling the heat in South Carolina. And the other one is Kirby Smart, who is now considered the GOAT of college football. That's it. That's the list. Do you know how hard it is to make the college football playoff? Extremely. Do you know how hard it is to make it to the national championship? Win, lose, indifferent, at a place like Notre Dame, especially in the BCS era where you were not allowed to lose one game in South Bend, Indiana? Yeah, he accomplished that with Everett Golston as his quarterback. On top of all of those things, do you know how hard it is to make it to the college football playoff as an independent like Notre Dame? Brian Kelly did that twice. And one year he did it while he was a member of the ACC. So where is the overrated part? Because you're going to call Dan Lanning overrated then. You're going to call Lane Kiffin overrated then. You're going to call Lincoln Riley. You're going to call Luke Fickell. You're going to call every single Tom, Dick, and Jane out there that ever made it to the college football playoff an overrated coach because you hold them to the same standards. I can end this argument in 5 seconds. It takes 5 simple seconds to end the argument that Brian Kelly's overrated. Your head coach is fired and Brian Kelly wants to come to your university. You going to say no? I'll wait, because that's the only card that I need. You know for a fact you would not say no. There were rumors and speculation after he had just won a national title in Ann Arbor that Jim Harbaugh was going to the NFL. And Sharon Moore was not qualified to be the next head coach of the Wolverines. But you know who is? Brian Kelly. You know the Brian Kelly that went from South Bend, Indiana to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, got double-digit wins in his first 2 seasons, continues to win in the transfer portal, and Michigan is a high-profile blue blood school. And they at least considered him. There were rumors, there was speculation. They had to at least have a conversation internally. Ward Manuel will never come out and admit it. But he had to at least have a conversation saying, you know what? If we go this pathway, we may be better. And now there's no Nick Saban. And now you have a brand new coach in Tuscaloosa. And now you're viewed as not only one of the best in college football, and I get it. I've seen the rankings against top 10 opponents. You still find a way to hold your own. You were a play away in year one, your first game, of beating a Florida State team that went 10-3. If your defense was able to have any consistency in the second half, you probably are 10-2 and you're fighting for a spot at least in a New Year's Six bowl game. So this analogy, this enigma, 18 plus 10 win seasons, been able to recruit at a place that he was told never was going to be able to work, and consistently finding himself inside the AP and college football top 10 rankings, overrated. Then every coach in college football not named Dabo Swinney, who most people would probably say is number 2, and Kirby Smart, who is number 1, is overrated as hell. That's the only way it works, because you can't have your cake and eat it too. So if you want to say Brian Kelly is overrated, fine. Show me the backing. I just gave you reasons why he's not. And I have factual evidence, multiple pillars that show not only is he probably the second best coach in the SEC, he's probably the second best coach in college football. And I can tell you this much, any school would be lucky to have Brian Kelly. I know about the incident. I'm not leaning over the incident. We all know about the incident. But tell me right now, your school is in need of a head coach. You know Kirby Smart's not leaving and you don't want Dabo Swinney. Your next phone call is probably to Brian Kelly. And if you're saying that it's not, you're either lying to yourself or you really are just making my point even clearer. Some people just want to watch the world burn. Make sure that you continue to follow us on social media at SEC Unfiltered. Hit the subscribe button and the ring notification. That way you don't miss a single episode of SECU. Download the podcast version of the show. iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Google Play. We got you covered everywhere. Follow me on my own social media platforms at Mr. Cole Thompson, my own YouTube channel at Mr. Cole Thompson. And to keep up with everything that we're doing covering college sports' #1 conference, make sure that you go ahead and visit SECunfiltered.com. I'm Cole Thompson. Until next time, folks, later.